All right, today we are going to do lesson 2, which is focused on histograms. A histogram is a type of bar graph used to display numerical data that have been organized into equal intervals. Frequency distribution is how many pieces of data are in each interval. Okay, so I'm going to skip down to these steps and then show how they match up with this picture example up here. Okay, so to make a histogram, you make a frequency table to organize the data. This is what a frequency table looks like, where you're figuring out how many pieces of data are in each interval. So, for example, for the interval of 0 to 5 days, the frequency is 5. That's how many pieces of data are within that interval that fall either 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Your next step is for each interval, use the table to find out how frequently the interval occurs. That's this last piece. This will be the height of the bar on the vertical or y-axis for that interval. So you can see on the histogram how this matches up with this. So the frequency of 0 to 5 days was 5. If you look closely, you can see that is the height of the bar right there. Then you just repeat for each interval. So we are going to try an example together. Maddie asked 25 people how many times they go out for lunch per month. The data is displayed below. Use the following data values to make a frequency table and histogram. So these are our data values, and as we go through them, we're going to tally in the box that matches up with the specific interval. Okay, so for example, 4 falls between 1 and 5, so we tally in that table. And then I'm going to cross that out so I don't reuse it. 6 falls within 6 through 10. 20 between 16 and 20. And then I'm just going to go ahead and go through the rest. So 10, 15, 10, 11, 3, 1, 16, 17, 22, 8, 9, 8, 15, 7, 9, 14, 12, 7, 21, 8, 10, 18. Okay, so now I have tallied every time it falls, every time one of the values falls within the frequency, so I'm going to count them up and put the frequency in this column. So I have 3 tallies for 1 through 5. I have 11 tallies for 6 through 10. 5 for 11 to 15. 4 for 16 through 20. And 2 for 21 through 25. You always want to go back and double check before you start creating your histogram to make sure that you have the correct number of values. So in this problem, it says Maddie asked 25 people. You want to add up all of your frequencies to make sure that it does equal 25. In this case, it does. So we are good to go on our histogram. Okay, so our graph is labeled. The x-axis is the number of times people went out to lunch per month, which is broken up into our equal intervals, and then the number of people, okay, or our frequency. All right, so now we need to actually make our histogram with our data from our frequency table. So like our steps say up at the top, for each interval, we need to make the y value the number that is on the frequency column. So for 1 through 5, the frequency was 3. 3 people answered that way. So the top of my bar should be at 3. Now, we are not going to require you to use a ruler to do this, but you need to be really careful and still make this nice and neat. Otherwise, we will ask you to go back and try it again with a ruler. Okay, so for the interval of 1 through 5, the frequency was 3. For the interval of 6 through 10, our frequency is 11. So I'm going to add an 11 up here. And that would be the height, because that is the number of people that answered with an answer that falls between 6 and 10. Okay, for 11 through 15, my frequency was 5. So 5 people answered with a value between 11 and 15. For 16 through 20, my frequency was 4. And for 21 through 25, my frequency was 2. All right, so that is all you have to do. For example 2, we are giving you an already completed histogram, and we are going to analyze it. Okay, so the example is Miss Swift surveyed some 6th grade students to see how many times they have been on an airplane. The data is displayed on the histogram. Use it to answer the questions below. So the first question just asks how many students did Miss Swift survey? So the number of students is our y-axis here. So what we have to do is figure out how many are in each interval and then add them all together. So for the interval 0 to 4, there are 0 students that answered that way. For the interval 5 to 9, you can see it goes up to 4, which means 4 students answered with an answer between 5 and 9. For 10 to 4 goes up to 5. 15 to 19 and 20 to 24 are both at 8. And 25 to 29 is 6. So when we add these all together, 0 students, 4 students, 5 students, 8 students, 8 students, 6 students, we get an answer of 31. So 31 students total answered the survey. B, how many students have been on a plane less than 15 times? So we need to be looking for those key terms again. Here we see less than. Okay, so that means anything that is below 15. It does not include 15, anything below 15. So we are going to look at any of these that are below this 15 mark. So we have 0 plus 4 plus 5, which is 9. 9 students have been on a plane less than 15 times. C, how many students have been on a plane at least 20 times? Our key term at least means greater than or equal to. So 20 times or higher. So we need to find where the 20 is. We are going to include 20 this time because it's greater than or equal to, and anything higher. So 8 plus 6, 14. 14 students have been on a plane at least 20 times. How many students have been on a plane between 5 and 14 times? So I'm going to start here with my 5 and go up to my 14. So any student that falls right in between here would be included. So I'm going to add 4 plus 5. 9 students have been on a plane between 5 and 14 times. E, our last question. Have more students been on a plane between 0 and 19 or between 20 and 29? So we're going to start with analyzing our data just between 0 and 19. So if I go from 0 to 19, I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4 values. So 0 plus 4 plus 5 plus 8 is 17, so I'm going to write that down here. Between 0 and 19 is 17. And then I'm going to compare that to the number of students who have been on a plane between 20 and 29 times. So now I'm going to look at the data between 20 and 29. So I'm going to add 8 and 6, which is 14. So to answer our question, more students have been on a plane between 0 and 19 times, because it's 17, than 20 and 29 times, because that was just 14. So my answer is 0 to 19. All right, so you are going to go ahead and go do the U-Try. You do not need to make your own histogram. You are going to be analyzing the histogram that is given to you.